Good morning. Welcome back. Lot been going on, but I wanted to give a quick update. I ran across this little book. It's called The Code of the West, and this is a little information packet that goes out to people in Bonner County, Idaho. And I live and work in Bonner County, Idaho. And I get a lot of people that call me and are moving to this area, want to buy land in this area, are interested in being here, living here, and the lifestyle here. And I came across this Code of the West book, which talks about buying property and some of the things that you're up against buying property in Bonner County. If you think these 10 pages is all you needed to know about buying real estate in North Idaho, you probably have a room temperature IQ and you shouldn't be here. As I've read through this book, I could write a thesis on some of the topics in here. It goes through and it talks about property access. Now, so legal access is not necessarily guaranteed. I know folks that have 60-acre parcels that don't have a legal access. They would have to trespass across somebody's property to get to their land. And who knows what the backstory is, a lawyer messed up, or it didn't get recorded, or the paperwork got lost somewhere at the recorder's office, who knows? But that's just one thing of 100 things that you should be looking at as you're buying property, as you're moving to North Idaho. And that really doesn't matter whether it's a piece of raw land or it's got a house on it. It's a buyer beware state, which means there might be issues and problems there, and you're on your own to figure them out. So I want to start a series, do several videos on the Code of the West, and go through some of this stuff and talk about it. I've had a lot of great people send me an email, call me, asking about, hey, we're thinking about buying. Hey, will you come look at this piece of property? What do you think? There is a lot to look at. And sadly, a lot of people lean on their realtor to gather that information. And the truth is the realtors are really good at doing real estate transactions, putting these real estate purchase contracts together and getting their 3-6%, whatever it might be, and then moving on to the next. But as far as doing the due diligence, answering all the questions on that piece of property, it needs to be up to you. And a lot of people don't understand all the things they need to look at. My hope is that going through the Code of the West and then drilling into some of these topics, whether it's access, or we'll get into utilities and we'll talk about power, we'll talk about sewer, talk about water, talk about the option of, is there gas, is there not, can we go to propane? We'll talk about all those utilities and the different types of water systems, septic system options, city hookups. There's just so much to go through. So I want to be able to share some of my experience and hopefully help folks be able to look at some of these issues before they buy a piece of property. Because that good deal that's cheaper than everybody else may not really be cheaper than buying the more expensive piece down the street when you start to add up access issues, possible infractions with the county as far as not being in compliance, or it's getting the utilities there might be more expensive on that inexpensive piece of property. So yeah, you got a deal on the land, but now you're going to spend twice as much to get the sewer and the power and drill a well over there because of that particular area. So we want to talk about all of those things and see if we can help educate folks that are moving to North Idaho and what to look for and some of the things that you might be up against. So I'm going to start this Code of the West series, and we'll go through a bunch of issues. I'm not even sure where to start. There's so many things. So we've got property access. We've talked a little bit about that. We'll dig into that. I'll do a video on just that. We'll do services, water, sewer, electric, and we'll also talk about fire and ambulance, and we'll then get into road maintenance and who takes care of the road maintenance. There are in Bonner County, county-owned roads, or like a public access road that is privately maintained. And so looking into your road and seeing, hey, is it on me to grade, smooth, fill the potholes, put gravel on that road? Is it on me to plow the snow? Who's connected to that road? Where does the county maintained road stop? Where does the private maintenance start? These are all some of the things that we can get into. We'll drill into those different topics. We'll talk about power outages and some of these utilities. Once you've got them, there can be trees that blow over. You can see some of these trees behind me. They're 150 foot tall. It would be easy for one of those to fall over, hit a power line, or smash a utility box or something and put the power out. And it could take, in a snowstorm, it could take a day or so before the local power providers could get out there and get things cleaned up, get access, and get the power back on. So we'll talk about backing up some of those systems, and why that's important. And it's also a big consideration on where you buy your property. What are the roads like? What are the utilities like out there? Is power coming in underground, or is it coming in over a pole? And obviously power lines over a pole probably have a greater chance of power being knocked out. And so we'll talk about having a home generator and backing up your own power. We'll then talk about the property. We'll talk about setbacks, and we'll talk about how to look at right-of-ways and easements and other things that you may own 10 acres, but there might be a legal access through the middle of it that you can't build on, and there might be setbacks from that you might be getting 2 4-acre parcels because of this easement or that goes through your property. So we'll look at those types of things. There's a lot to look at when we start to consider all of the possible scenarios, especially buying rural property in North Idaho. And I don't want to talk anybody out of buying property here. I love it here. There are so many great things about being in North Idaho. I mean, being right here next to the ski resort and having access to the lake and having 10 acres and especially raising kids at our house, we absolutely love this lifestyle. But it is definitely a lot more self-sufficient lifestyle. You're on your own. You've got to take care of yourself. I mean, the idea of food storage becomes real when you know that you could have a snowstorm that locks you in for a few days and you can't get to the grocery store. Or if the power goes out, what are you going to do to keep those freezers or refrigerators on so that everything doesn't thaw out in your house? There's just a lot to think about, and it's different. It's very different than living in the city, but it's worth it, and we love it. And if we could help people understand some of those things and be prepared for it, then if it does happen, it's not going to be an issue. So what else have we got? We talked about weather conditions a little bit. We'll get into that, about what the conditions might be, what you're up against. And that's everything from hot, dry, and dusty in the summer that is going to be cold and wet and snowy in the wintertime. There's going to be that spring breakup where all that snow and ice starts to melt and you've got water everywhere, which makes everything muddy. Roads get soft, access gets hard. There might be weight restrictions on certain roads. So we'll talk about how weather affects the lifestyle here in this rural environment. What else have we got? Talk about living out here in this rural environment. You're going to have to interact with agriculture, in a lot of different forms, whether it's ranching or farming or whatever it might be. Thinking about where you buy property and how you interact with that property. If somebody calls me up and says, hey, I bought 10 acres and it's next to this 100 acres and they got a bunch of cows and the cows stink, I'm scratching my head wondering, those cows were there, you bought the property, it's on you. If you don't like the smell, you shouldn't have bought that property. So there's interacting with agriculture a little bit. We'll talk about that, some things to consider as you look around. What else have we got? A few other things in here, just briefly. Probably the thing that most people don't understand is that there's a lot of different entities. So you might have Panhandle Health District that's going to handle septic issues. There might be a DEQ that might handle water issues, or on a community level, a water system that's on a community level. You're going to have Bureau of Lands, you're going to have the Forest Service, you're going to have state lands of Idaho, and where your property is and how those other regulatory agencies interact, and their rules might be different than county rules or the city rules, or how you interact with those. I know that there are certain scenarios where there's a 40-foot setback if you back up to certain lands that are state lands. They want a 40-foot buffer between what you build and their property line. And so there's those types of things that are going to affect the property that you're buying. And you need to know that, because those lines aren't drawn out there in the dirt, and there may not be survey pins there, but on the plat, if there is one, or on the deeds, there should be information there spelling out that type of stuff. And so there it is again. It's on you to go dig into that, to be self-aware of what you're really buying and what you're getting into. Because so many times people show up, they pull up with their realtor in a minivan, and it's so beautiful, and oh, we love it, and let's write a check. But they don't fully understand that they're not just buying the view and the trees, that there may be some limitations to the land that they're buying. And because it's got that view, it may be on a steep slope, and so roads may be an issue. There's just a lot to think about, and I would like to go through this book and do some videos that will help people think about these things as you're buying property, as you're moving towards North Idaho, and hopefully it'll help you find the property that is best for you and that you can really enjoy, and not find it to be a chore to have that 5 or 10 or 20 acre piece, whatever it is that you end up buying. So I'll be working on these videos in the future, and I'll try to be regular about getting them out there, and we'll do this series, and hopefully this will be helpful. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear specific topics that you want to know about, the things that you're most curious about, and keep in mind that I'm going to be speaking specifically to Bonner County, Idaho, which is Sandpoint area. And there may be, if you're north of us in Boundary County, or you're in Kootenai County below us, there may be some different things that apply there. I mean, it could be their aquifer there is different, and soils are different, and they just have different rules and regulations. Or maybe county government is different in Boundary County, and they're going to have different rules and regulations. So I will be speaking specifically to Bonner County, Idaho, but I think most of the lessons can apply across the spectrum generally. So let me know your comments. Leave it down below. I want to hear from you. I will definitely take those comments and put them into the video, and we'll go through and talk about them.